consensus. It's all fun and games until some poor fool is hanging dead from a tree. Good evening, everybody. Hell's Unicorn here once again. And in our ongoing effort to procure more delegates for a potential upset victory for Ron Paul at the Tampa Convention, it appears that we've hit a little bit of a speed bump in Idaho, or at least that's what the media would have us think. I will read an article located on the Idaho Statesman, and I have this in the description as well, so feel free to read it yourself. Trust but verify. Ron Paul backers lose bid to take Ada delegates from Romney. And so it follows. Ron Paul organizer Ryan Davidson will be a delegate to the Idaho State GOP Convention, but his plan to take over the June meeting and deliver Idaho's delegates to Paul rather than Mitt Romney appears at serious risk. Paul forces were counting on Idaho's two largest counties as the key to their strategy, but Ada County GOP voted Thursday to require state delegates to back Romney. Romney won all 32 national delegates at the March GOP caucus. No, he didn't. As a little aside here, if those delegates have not been selected, nobody has won them. But anyway, continuing. My position is that it's completely illegal, Davidson said Friday, adding that he may attempt to overturn the decision at the state convention in Twin Falls that begins June 21st. Feel free to go ahead and do that, Mr. Davidson, but as it is now plainly known by everybody who follows the actual laws of the Republican Party as they are written at the National Convention, it's not really something that's required. The delegates can vote however they want, and we'll see what the Republican Party tries to do when they have a mass mutiny on their hands. But anyway, continuing. Davidson was elected as a Legislative District 16 delegate. He lost his bid to be a state committeeman to Dave Shurtleff, part of a slate precinct committeemen loyal to Romney and Idaho Governor Butch Otter. It's not what you know, it's who you know when it comes to being the establishment candidate. But anyway, continuing. Davidson said perhaps a third of the Ada delegates may be willing to support an alternative to Otter's choice as party chairman. Dwight Johnson, a Romney Otter loyalist, was reelected as Ada County chairman without opposition. In Canyon County, State Senator Melinda Schmeiser of Parma was elected chairman Wednesday. She defeated former Libertarian Maurice Clements, who last week lost a bitter challenge to Senator Patty Ann Lodge of Huston by a 60% to 40% margin. Schmeiser said her aim is unity. We're going to keep Canyon County the Republican stronghold that it is. Schmeiser, who is leaving the Senate to become an aide to U.S. Senator Jim Risch, said she spoke with Clements Friday. We've got a lot to do to unify the party, defeat Barack Obama, and elect Republicans, she said. In Canyon County, the party drew lots to select its delegation to the state convention. So they're engaging in blasphemy. But anyway, continuing. Said Davidson, that seemed fair. We got some delegates. And thus ends the story. Ladies and gentlemen, the only thing that counts here is who the delegates are that have been selected and what their state of mind is and their state of conscience come the convention in Tampa. All of this other stuff is really smoke and mirrors. You see, the one little scrap of benevolence that we were left from the days of this country's founding was this little loophole called the Electoral College. There were massive flaws in the democratic systems of Greek and Rome that led to their eventual downfall. And this was known to many who were responsible for the founding of this country, not the least of whom was John Adams, who was a big proponent of the Electoral College. And it was this: the masses are asses. And you can see that by the way they voted in these straw poll elections that the media continues to insist actually determines who the nominee actually is and who gets all the delegates, which we know for a fact to be rubbish. This system by which delegates are selected and by which people who actually know the process are given more power to affect the process is a more honest and a more direct way to actually affect a political outcome. I argue it's still a flawed system, but it's a heck of a lot better than the illusion of a system that we're being presented with in all of these various media outlets. To put a long story short, what we are witnessing here is the unveiling of a cult that is very much alive within the Republican Party establishment, and that is the cult of consensus. And it's very comparable to this unquestioning worship that people have of things such as unity, conformity, and even peer review in a lot of cases. A bunch of people get together and they make a group determination, and there is less opposition, so therefore it is automatically true. 10,000 Frenchmen cannot be wrong, at least until they're laying in heaps in the battlefield covered in their own blood. I answer in contrast. Unity is good, truth is better. I think that's actually a quote from John Calvin. I just kind of reworded it a little bit. When I quibble with all of these so-called consensus worshippers, I don't argue with them that unity is a bad thing, but I do argue that unity is not an answer. Unity is half an answer. Unity for what? Unity in what? Unity in Republicans? Well, tell me what a Republican is. We got a couple different kinds here to choose from. We have establishment Republicans that, you know, they like war a little better. They don't like economic controls as much, but they do the same things as the asshole that's currently running this country. And we have these other Republicans that don't believe all of that. So whose unity are we talking about here? What kind of unity are we talking about here? And more importantly, and this is the sticking point that nobody wants to talk about, what sort of doctrine are we purveying here? Are we purveying a doctrine that freedom is better? Or are we purveying a doctrine that our brand of tyranny is better? Because I didn't sign on to be a tyrant. And if that's what I'm left with, then I'm just going to stay home, play video games come election day. That's my stance on the matter. With prudence to myself and benevolence to all of you, good evening.